What can I start? Okay. Welcome to everybody present and online. And today this open talk they asked me to give. Then I thought it is very important to know a little about the life of Rigdzin Changchub Dorje. So for many years, Changchub Dorje mostly became famous in the West because of being the root master of Chögyal Namkhai Norbu. But for many years, we did not know much about his life. So many times, like Rinpoche would tell stories here and then what he heard during his life. So then, some 20 years ago, Changchub Dorje's grandson, who is called Karwan Dorje, he wrote a biography of his grandfather. And so then this work, it was, first of all, it was translated, the translation, Elio Guarisco, translator. So unfortunately then he could not finish this translation because then he passed away because of COVID in 2020. So then I took this responsibility to complete this translation, etc. So I'm still working on this because it's very complicated, very difficult. Because it contains many local, like dialect expressions, so it's not easy. Even for Tibetans, sometimes it is not easy to understand. So in any case, now I'm still working, so I think 1 year or something it will be completed, this job. And this job of translation is under the help and work of this Kater organization, which is Dzogchen Community's organization for translations. So I want to also thank Oliver Like and Jamian Oliphant because they are still doing a great job for gathering the funds for this Kater organization. And this allows me to continue my work. There is also many works of Chögyal Namkhai Norbu we need to complete. So Rigdzin Changchub Dorje was one of the great turns of 19th and 20th century in Tibet. He was originally from Nyarong area. For that reason, he also known as Nyala. Nyala Changchub Dorje means Lama from Nyarong. So his main biography, this is written by Karwan Dorje, as we said. Then also Rinpoche, Chögyal Namkhai Norbu, he wrote a biography. I think his idea was to write a complete biography. And, but then he stopped around 20 years of age of Changchub Dorje's life. And sometimes it is same way of explaining or telling stories from Karwan Dorje. Sometimes it's a little different. For that reason, then I thought, then I can explain it according to the Chögyal Nankanorbu's text that he wrote until these 20 years of age, also because otherwise it would be too long. Also, there is another biography of Rigdzin Changchub Dorje, which we can find in his collection of termas. When Changchub Dorje was alive, then at his gar, this Kamdogar, already they had prepared many wood blocks for printing, so there were many already his volumes terma printed there in that way. And so then, also, for example, when Chögyal Nankanorbu first traveled for the first time in Tibet after he was living in Italy in 88, then he brought many of these texts to Italy. That was the first time these texts arrived in the West. Then, recently, maybe 10 years ago, one of the relations of Changchub Dorje, Rinchen Samdrup, then he printed in Lhasa like some 56, 57 volumes of his collection, his terma teachings. So also then, together with these volumes of terma, there is also kind of biography written by Rinchen Samdrup, which is more concise. In any case, Changchub Dorje was very important for Chögyal Nankanorbu because even though, Chögyal Nankanorbu was a Drupa Kajupa Tulku, like for example Anzan Drupa's Tulku, No. Chögyal Nankanorbu was originally a reincarnation of mainly for Anzan Drupa, who was a Dzogchen master. What I didn't understand. Chögyal Nankanorbu, I said, okay, is that clear? Okay. So then, even though he had that connection with the Dzogchen teaching from early age, because, for example, Chögyal Nankanorbu's uncle, Toden Ujien Tenzin, he was one of the main students of Anzan Drupa, and he achieved the rainbow body also. So then Rinpoche received many like Dzogchen teachings and Vajrayana teachings from important masters. Like for example, his Chense uncle Chökyi Wanchuk, then later Jayam Chökyi Lodro, Dzongsa Chense, and different, like 10, 12 masters, Dzogchen masters, important. But even though he had received so many teachings and empowerment, it was only when he met Rigdzin Changchub Dorje that his knowledge awakened. So this is very interesting because that means really connection with the Lama from former lives is the most important point for developing our knowledge and for discovering, first of all, our knowledge. That is what we say like a root master. It is not something we can choose like important master or that is my root master, because even if it is such a great master, if you don't have that connection, then it does not work for you. So that does not mean like Changchub Dorje was superior to Kungapal Den or other realized masters, but that connection with Rinpoche was superior to those other connections. So then, first of all, Chögyam Nankha Norbu had a dream in which he saw this kind of yogin dressed like a normal kampa. And then he received some kind of blessing in that dream. Then he tried to find out who this master was, but then nobody could try to identify him. Until almost 1 year later, then when Chögyam Nankha Norbu was at his house, then there was some relation of Chagotobden family. Chagoto then was a very important political figure in Kham, in Eastern Tibet, in the first half of the 20th century. So then this relative of Chagoto, then he talked about a very special doctor, medical doctor, and how they had sent like urine for checking to this doctor, traveling without stopping like for 2 days. Then, as soon as he arrived, Changchub Dorje said, we don't need to check this urine. That person already passed away. So he gave some tadrol, some relics for put on the body, etc. Then he described that place. Then Chögyam Nankha Norbu understood, oh yes, that is the place I dreamed. That is the Lama that I dreamed. So finally, then with his father, then they went to this Konjo, which is on the Kham, but is on the west side of this Yangtze River, now belonging to this Tibet autonomous region. And then when he went there, then he recognized the same place as was in his dream, same master. So then he understood that was his important teacher for him. So you can imagine now, Chögyam Nankha Norbu, all of his life till that point he was in a monastery like the Dorje Gonchen, 5 years. Then he was in Wante Gompa Shedra, this Shedra, like philosophy school for many years also. So always receiving classes, teachings, empowerments. Also, in the meantime, he had received so many important initiation, So every time he would go to a teacher, he would expect the teacher every day or every Sunday he's giving initiation, power, like that kind of routine. We went there. This Changchub Dorje was living as jogging with his family, and then just every day sitting outside of his house for receiving people. Whatever they need, he gives. Of course, that does not mean all of his life he had been that way, because in the biography it says many times he gave empowerment and transmission, whatever. But when Chojanaka Norbu met him, he was already 85 or something, or more, like 19, even more than 19. So then he was expecting like teaching. Then finally he asked for receiving the empowerment, and Changchub Dorje agreed in the end to satisfy Chojanaka Norbu's wishes. So then maybe you have read the story, there is in some book. The whole day he gave this one of the shitro, peaceful and wrathful. At the end of all this empowerment, when everything was finished, according to Chojanaka Norbu, as it was his habit with other teachers, so he was rising to go away and say, thank you. Changchub Dorje say, stop, we didn't do anything. So now there is something we have to do. And then Chojanaka Norbu received this principle of Ripetzel 1, which means direct introduction and knowledge of real state of the individual, of Dzogchen. Then Chojanaka Norbu, then he saw all his knowledge built till that point collapse completely, and then that real state of Dzogchen then arose spontaneously, and that changed completely his way of seeing the teaching and how to help students, etc. So that was a connection of Chojanaka Norbu with Changchub Dorje. That is the reason also why we have now a Dzogchen community in this way, and how Rinpoche's idea was influenced by Changchub Dorje's state of being. Okay, so I read a little some explanation from this text. So I says, with all my body, voice, and mind, I bow with my three gates of body, voice, and mind to the incomparably kind root master Vajradhara. Vajradhara means a state of like a Dharmakaya, source of all teachings. And Rigdzin Changchub Dorje. Rigdzin means like realized master through this Vajrayana path, and particularly Dzogchen path. So, biography of Changchub Dorje is like a vast ocean. But in my mind, dimension of my mind, just a few drops could enter. So these drops of his vast life and knowledge, then I will explain, I will tell now. Also, most of his life story now, it has been written down by his grandson, Karwan Dorje. So that is very important. And also what I heard directly from my teacher, also I will write down. First of all, in his Terma teachings, it is repeatedly explained that he was like a Nirmanakaya, or like manifestation of Prince or King Mutik-tsempo. So Mutik-tsempo, like he again chosen to have a rebirth as Changchub Dorje, then for helping beings. So Mutik-tsempo was one of 4 sons of King Trison Detsen. If you know history of Dharma in the Nyingmapa tradition, Trison Detsen was a king, 8th century. He invited first Shantarakshita and then Padmasambhava to establish Buddhism in Tibet. So Mutik-tsempo was the last of his sons who reigned. And also he was father of Rinpoche, this king, important king, Buddhist, last of the Buddhist kings before this long Dharma. So there are many quotations in the Terma that explain this, how he was born as a reincarnation of Mutik-tsempo. So regarding the place where he was born in the country of Nyarong. You know, Nyarong is in Kham, that is east part of Dorje area, a little south. So Nyarong is very important because many important lamas were born there in the 19th century, 20th century. Like Nyalape Madundul, you heard, this famous who achieved the rainbow body. And Tertun Sogel, this Lerap Limpa, also extraordinary Tertun master. So this is many important, also many Nyingmapa, most Nyingmapa monasteries are in this Nyarong area. Also, Nyarong is famous because there were many bandits and criminals there. Because in Nyarong there is many gorges, very shallow gorges, and with high green mountains, then bandits can find easily way to stop travelers and to rob them. Also, Nyarong famous because in the 19th century, this one chieftain of Nyarong, the Gompa Namgyel, he unified that area and then he conquered Dorje, much territory of Kham. So this Gompa Namgyel, very famous because he was the first who wanted to kind of unify Kham. Then all these Dorje, kings of Dorjes and Trehor, these other areas tried to fight with him but didn't succeed, so they asked help to the Chinese. So the Chinese then didn't succeed. Finally, army from central Tibet arrived, and they burnt this place of Gompa Namgyel, and he died there. So this Nyaron area, then he was born in a small village. But at that time was not clear which was this village when Rinpoche wrote this biography. Then I did some research because some other Karwan Dorje's biography, they are mentioning this Peru Gompa, Beru. This is usually Beru is in Kanze area and it is Gelupa monastery. Finally, then with some help of Tibetologists, then we understood that is a mistaken spelling for Palri. So he was born in this Palri village near Palri Monastery, which is a Nyima monastery in Upper Nyarong. So he was born in the 10th day of 7 Tibetan month, which means 24 August 1863. And his father was called Chatak Trashi. His father was 7th generation descending from important Tertön called Chögyal Lingpa, who had lived in that area. And he was a practitioner, like a Ngakpa yogin, tantric style of practitioner. And his mother she was called Potru. She was the daughter of a nun who was from Dorje area. But then she broke her vows and became pregnant. Then she couldn't stay in Dorje area anymore. Then she traveled by foot and ended up in Nyarong area. And then she gave birth to a girl, and this girl was Changchub Dorje's mother. So then Changchub Dorje's mother, she grew up in that area, Nyarong area. She lived just with the mother, so she was in poor, difficult conditions. And then she met this yogin, and then also she became pregnant, and she was already a practitioner, Changchub Dorje's mother. She was a practitioner. She was very devoted to a Drupakaju kind of siddha called Truptop Jawa Changchub. So Truptop Jawa Changchub, he said to Changchub Dorje's mother, "You will give birth to an important being." So then, finally, Changchub Dorje was born. Since beginning, where Changchub Dorje was born, also there were strong presence of Ekajati, this guardian, female guardian, being that present always near to this small baby. Sometimes appearing like a female. Sometimes in the nighttime appearing like a peacock feather. or like sometimes like light, firelight. So then, after some months, Changchub Dorje's mother took the child to this Siddha, Chewa Changchub, for like a purification ritual and also receiving names. So he received the name Khalsan Tenzin. So Khalsan Tenzin was his name when he was born. Yes, thank you. Therefore, he was known as Akal, because in Kham, that area, they take first syllable and put A before that. So he became Akal for everybody. Then since he was small, kind of he remember something of previous lives. And because they were very poor, they did not have like sustenance or food. They were living a very miserable life. So this small Changchub Dorje sometimes explained that in previous lives he had been many times a king and he had tortured people. For that reason, then and now he had to suffer all these like miserable condition and poverty and all this situation. So that time, Changchub Dorje's mother was working mostly like a servant in rich people's houses. So Changchub Dorje sometimes would remain alone, and then mother would come back and bring some food, etc. Then when he was around 6 years of age, then he started also to work for a herder for sheep and cows for people of that area. So at that time, their condition improved a little. Because at that time, that system in Tibet, you work a whole day for herding cows, etc. Then in the end, you get some tsampa, some butter, so you can eat. But also he met some problems because starting with that time, he had a strong protection from also this Rahula guardian. This Rahula is connected to this Za class of beings. Sometimes they provoke these dripne. Drip means like contamination related to like epilepsy or like paralysis, this kind of nerve related to the nerves. So when he was working, sometimes maybe he was sleeping in these rich people's houses. Then sometimes from his body it comes in the nighttime sparkling something. Or somebody living in the same room, maybe they would get, or touching his body, he would get like a electric shock, something like that. Or this kind of like sparks of muscles. So they thought, oh, this boy, Akal, this is a bad spirit. So they throw him out of the house, and then he had to sleep outside sometimes. So that was his condition, that age. Then he wanted very much to learn how to read and write. But then when he tried to ask somebody of the region, they say, well, why do you need to read and write? Better you learn how to do well this job of herding cows. Then you will get good sustenance for your life. So sometimes he would go in places where they keep these tsa-tsa, these like votive images. Then sometimes they leave some pages, Tibetan folklore. So he would take them and try to learn to read. So this is in Karwan's, but I am also telling a little from Karwan's biography, what I remember. So when they were like nice people, they would help him to read, or the other people, they would treat him bad. You say, oh, you are like a beggar son, what do you need to do with this sacred text like that? They would treat him very badly. So in that way, slowly, he succeeded in being able to read something. Then when he was about 8 years old, so all this chronology we have, sometimes in Karwan's biography, a little different. Sometimes, for example, he says 8, then he says 9 or 6, so it's not very clear, because also I think impossible to know now. In any case, when he was herding cows, etc., one day then he met this rishi, Transon Ripi Yeshe, like old man with white hair. So Transon Ripi Yeshe is the one who is expounding the teaching of medicine in the 4 tantras. That is the basis of Tibetan medicine. So for 5 days he was continuously with Changchub Dorje and transmitting whole knowledge of medicine. All 4 tantras and how to recognize herbs and minerals, etc. But this is not only his vision, because he is like fellow herders. They saw this man with white hair and they asked, oh, that old man, will he come also today or not? So after that, these 5 days, he had a kind of complete knowledge of Tibetan medicine. Then he prepared 13 small bags containing all these herbal medicines or minerals, everything, according to the instructions he had received. And he started to give this medicine to the people of the village. Not only that, but he could also be able to check the pulse and the urine, and also doing like divination if there is provocation of energy of this, some astrological. He had like a supreme clarity for discovering the cause of illness and how to remedy for that. But then the mother was Changchub Dorje's mother was worried. So one day she said to Changchub Dorje, hey, you are giving this medicine, they have no foundation, no authenticity. It's dangerous, you can kill somebody. So she tried to stop Changchub Dorje doing that job. But he said to his mother, "Oh, they are not medicine just as my idea. I do that. I had this empowering from this great rishi, Ripi Yeshe. So all these medicine, they have that power." So from that time, not only that, but also he had a vision like Ujjain Menla. Ujjain Menla is Padmasambhava's form, a manifestation as medicine Buddha. So also from other medical doctors of ancient times like Utokpa and many others. And from them he received all this explanation of 4 tantras of medicine, etc. Also, when he was starting from 9 years old, also he started to have like receiving like symbol from the Dakinis for discoveries of Terma. But mostly that is related to his meeting with Nyalapema Dundul. So now it is a little difficult to understand when he actually met Nyalapema Dundul. Because Nyalapema Dundul, he died in 1872. 1872. So Changchub Dorje was around 9 years old at that time. So probably he met Nyalapema Dundul when he was 8 or 9, not sure. In any case, Changchub Dorje's mother, she took him to Nyalapema Dundul, that he had come to this Samten Gompa, which is Nyimapa Gompa in Nyarong, near that area of Changchub Dorje. Samten Gompa, to consecrate that temple. So then, here also there is a story that when Changchub Dorje arrived with the mother, then all these monks and others, they tried to block mother and son because they were like beggars, so they didn't want to allow them. So the Nyalapema Dundul was about to give this empowerment of this Kachab Randrol, which is a terma of a very important terma of Nyalapema Dundul. So then Chojen Ankanobu, he's saying when they were chasing out, then he started to shout and knocked on the door of this temple. Then Nyalapema Dundul heard, then he said to his attendant to let this child and mother beggars to come inside for receiving the teachings. So this was first time that Changchub Dorje had received the kind of Dzogchen empowerment. And Nyalapema Dundul made a kind of a prediction that he would receive this secret treasury of the Dakinis, Termas. And also he gave this Ripete 1 direct introduction. So here it is saying, to General Canarbo is saying, I heard this from the Lama that day when we received the Shitro empowerment. At the end, he told us that it was his first connection with Dzogchen teaching knowledge. Also, Nyalape Manundul, he predicted, Changchub Dorje, he said, your teacher is Nyala Ranrik. Nyala Ranrik was very important master and Tertön of Nyarong also. And he was one of main students of Nyala Pema Dundul. So now he will explain how he had connection. So then from that time, according to the prediction of Nyala Pema Dundul, so he had received kind of this symbolic container, drombu, from the Dakinis. And then he started, since that time until for 50, 60, 70, he also continuously had receiving from the Dakinis, Terma symbols. He decoded the symbol, wrote down Termas, even when Rinpoche was there. In 1955. So Changchub Dorje was 92 something. Still he was receiving Gonter, and one period Chogena Kenobi wrote down some pages of this Kadu Chuki Janso Terma. So there's many stories, but not possible to explain here now. Then also that time he completed 100 million recitation of Om Mani Padme Hum mantra. So he had a vision of Avalokiteshvara, received teaching, etc. Then still he was working as a herder. Then one day, then he saw one leopard just killed a cow. He was on this area and, among rocks with his goats, herding goats. Then all of a sudden he saw all these goats running away everywhere. Then he went to see below a rock, he saw this leopard on this cow, had just killed the cow. Then he became very angry at the leopard. So then he saw a very large stone. Then he tried with all his strength to put foot under this stone, and he succeeded, and he rolled down this huge stone and fell on this leopard. Then he broke some joints or something. Then the leopard could not walk anymore. Then he felt strong compassion for this leopard. Then he started to collect everywhere food for the leopard, like flesh of like animals, dead animals, whatever. And every day he would bring to this leopard. So then this leopard, they became very close friends. He was crippled, so he was called this Akal, the crippled leopard of Akal. So this is a story that found in all biographies. They tell about this. Also, also during that time, then he met, when he was around 11 years old, then he met this Lama Ranrik Dorje. So Ranrik Dorje was what he considered his root master, his Tsaoi Lama. Nyala Pemanundul had 3 or 4 most important students. One was this Sonam Taye. He was older and was a teacher of Lerap Limpa, or Tertön Sogel. Lerap Limpa, Tertön Sogel. Then another important student was this Yeshe Dorje, who wrote a biography of Nyala Pemanundul. But most important considered to be this Ranrik Dorje, because when Nyala Pemanundul attained rainbow body, he kind of appeared to Ranrik Dorje and he said, "You are my destined student, so you are the owner of my teacher and terma, etc." So that's why he's considered most important. Ranrik Dorje, then he also achieved kind of a rainbow body. Now his body is like 10 centimeters. You can still see in Kudung reliquary, in this Lumorap Gompa in Nyaron. So this also he is important because Nyimapa monastery in central Tibet, Mindroling, it's very important lineage. When one point this Tulku, kind of not Tulku, but family line of Jurme Dorje, then they did not have male heirs for continuing that line. So then I think something related with the 13th Dalai Lama, because 13th Dalai Lama was very much connected to that Mindroling. So then they, and some other lamas, they thought to ask Nyala Ranrik, because he was considered a kind of emanation or reincarnation of Jurme Dorje. To give one of his sons or grandsons to a female of the Mindrolin, so that could continue that lineage. And so that happened, so that reason. So very important Lama, this Ranrik Dorje. So Changchub Dorje received like Lama Yantik initiation, instructions, and all important teachings. So also here now it says that when first he went to receive empowerment from him, again this attendants did not allow him. He shouted. So I don't know if this just happened one time. But sometimes they say both with Nyala Pemanundul or Nyala Ranrik, so I don't know, I cannot say. So I have some doubts. In Karwan Dorje only says about when he met Ranrik Dorje, this happened, but I don't know. Could be both times. In any case, Ranrik, then he gave all important teaching Rinpoche one, and he gave him the name Changchub Dorje. That was from Ranrik Dorje. Then during that time, still he was working as a herdman, and then he also had like a vision of Vimalamitra. So he had all this vision. Then also some signs manifested. The place where he was working, the family. Then that night also that milk, just milk, became spontaneously like butter. Also that butter they used for the butter lamps. Then also they lasted for days and days. Also, he had the kind of vision from Guru Padmasambhava, and also like indication for discovering of Hayagriva, Termas, etc. Then when he was around 12 years of age, he finally stopped doing this job as a herder, and then he went as a monk in this Palri monastery near where he was born. Also then at that period he received from Tertön Sogel, you know, Lerab Limpa, this incredible Tertön. If you don't know, there is a beautiful work done by this Matthew Pistono. He did these 2 books about Tertön Sogel. One is called Fearless in Tibet. It's an extraordinary, very inspiring biography. So from Tertön Sogel, he received all teaching of this Chogel Limpa. You remember, Chogel Limpa, this Tertön, whom he lineage from Changchub Dorje's father of the family. And he then started to do like intensively practice of Hayagriva from that Chogel Limpa's termas. So mostly when he was in a monastery, he stayed in his room trying to do practice, etc. But not only that, I did not say, but still, even when he was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, he was working with the cows. As soon as he could, he would just sit and doing prostration, mantra recitation while watching the animals. So many times he was scolded by some like a family owner, animal owners, or like fellow herders. Oh, what are you doing? You are just wasting your time. You should work. Be careful of the animals. So when he enrolled, started to be in that monastery, other monks, they were not happy. He was just in his room doing practice. So they say, you should learn how to play instrument, ritual instruments, and do something in the Gompa, in the monastery. But he did not have much, didn't want really to learn. Then this from the monastery, okay, you don't want to learn to play, then you have to do this unze, means chant leader, like I do sometimes, unze. Then he was very intelligent, so then he could learn how old melodies, how he should sing. But then he thought, yeah, I know how to sing, but who knows my voice? He was a little worried because maybe he felt he didn't have a good tone of the voice. Then one night with this worry in his mind, then he fell asleep. Then it was a full moon, And then during the night, he saw from the moon, like coming a white conch shell. This white conch shell with the sound, then he absorbed in his throat. Then he woke up, and then he cleared his throat like this. Then in his room from this pillar, whatever, then all dust starting to rise everywhere. Then he understood he had received this CD of, they call CD of Brahma's voice. So then he told his mother, so it means his mother still alive at that point, because then we don't hear anything more about his mother. So he said, oh, mother, I received that CD of Brahma. Don't worry, I will be a good unze. So then next day, then he started to do unze, some ritual. Then he sounded home. Then again, all this dust rising from everywhere. So everybody was amazed at that. Then they understood he was not normal. Then they started a little joking to tease, say, oh, now you should play this tung chen, this telescopic trumpet, this very loud. Then he said, no, it is better I don't play this tung chen. They said, why? Because if I play, it may break. They say, no, how you can break this tung chen? This, made of copper, etc. It's not easy to break. Okay, then he said, okay, as you like, he said. Then he played one note and this broke. But they, of course, couldn't say anything because he had already warned them, be careful, that happened like that. Then at one point, in this Gompa, this Parri Gompa, they were doing practice in general of Hayangriva from Choje Limpa's termas. Then some belonging in that monastery started to criticize. They say, oh no, these Choje Limpa, maybe terma, they are not pure, not authentic. We should stop this practice. Then they got this kind of this leprosy, illness of skin, all this in this monastery. And even also Changchub Dorje, because he was mixed with these people, even though he didn't have any bad thoughts about these Choje Limpa's termas. Then he had a kind of vision. This Ekajati was asking this Karchen Palkiwanchuk. Karchen Palkiwanchuk was one of 25 students of Guru Pamasambhava, and Choje Limpa had been his reincarnation. So then Ekajati was asking him, what should we do with these people? They are behaving bad. They are not respecting your termas. So maybe we should send some provocations. So then Pagiwanchuk said, yes, but if they continue, again, resume that practice, then they should all be healed and restored to health. So Changchub Dorje had that vision. So then they resumed that practice. So they recited, Changchub Dorje also recited 100 million that mantras. So then they were all healed and he had all signs. Also, when he was 13 years of age, also he had a vision of Guru Pamasambhava and also termas, how to decode symbols, etc. Also, then at that time he became also famous because he could stop like hails. You know, in Tibet it was very important these tantric practitioners, Ngakpa. Because if there was a kind of hail destroying crops, then it means for 1 year they had no food. So they always relied on these tantric practitioners to stop hails, etc. But usually then these tantric practitioners, they rely on like guardians and mantras, etc. So when started to come this hell, they asked Changchub Dorje for help, but he just remained in like state of contemplation. That way, he reverted all hell, so he became famous for that. Also, it says sometimes he had, then now difficult to understand for us, because he says he was kind of invited by this Jidak or Yulha. But you know, for example, when we do Sang in general, we make contact with these beings who live in the area that are related to the environment. So their health and their well-being is very much interdependent with the well-being and health of the people who live in that area. So this maybe in a vision or in a real dimension for Changchub Dorje, he was invited by one kind of chief of these Yula or local beings. And he found many of these beings then with all like wounds and like blisters on their bodies. Like there are like sesame seeds and pebbles. Usually they use for doing kind of sometimes black magic. They used to do that. So they were just like inside the butter, in this flesh of these beings, whatever. So then Changchub Dorje, then he used this mantra power, and then he did sang, etc. So all these beings then were restored to health. So this probably means this Yulha kind of God, spirit, whatever. Then they had received provocation from some powerful yogin, Ngakpa. So with their clear sight, they could see Changchub Dorje was more powerful. So then invited him to help them, something like that. Then when he was 14 years old, then he went for 1 year and something to this Katok monastery. you know, Katok is a very important Nyimapa monastery and most ancient Nyimapa after this Samye, I think. That it was founded by this Katampa Deshe, and mostly this Mahayoga, Anuyoga, Atiyoga tradition maintained in that monastery. Especially what we say, 3 series of Dzogchen, study of like Semde, Longde, Upadesh, especially like Semde, maintained there in that Katok monastery. So then later, starting like 16th century, then also became very important from this Dundul Dorje and Longsal Nyingpo, these 2 very extraordinary turns. So that tradition was mostly installed there at Katok, so became also important for that. So then he went to this Katok as a monk, living there, and he received teaching from a teacher called Tuten Chuki Jung'e. And so received all these Kama teaching, all 3 series of inner yogas, including all these terma of Duldu Dorje and Losel Nyingpo, very important. Then starting when he was 15 years of age, he for the first time he had symbols for the termas of Kadu Chuki Janso, that is important series of terma. Means ocean of Dharma that unifies all teachings. Also when Chögyal Nankai Norbu was in Kamdogar, in the presence of Changchub Dorje, he wrote down some parts still of that Kadu Chuki Janso terma. So that time he did not put into writing, but he started practicing all these series. Then that time during that time also, because also he had been in contact always with Lama Ranrig Dorje, he had to go to central Tibet, I told you, because of mindroling, etc. Then Ranrig Dorje, he said to Nyala Yeshe Dorje, I told you before, Yeshe Dorje was also a student in Nyala Pema Nundul and one who wrote a biography of Nyala Pema Nundul. He said, now I give you this son of mine, so treat him as it was, I am treating him as my own son, so take care of him. So Yeshe Dorje became then second important master after Ranrig Dorje. So he received many teachings from him and he practiced, and Yeshe Dorje was very satisfied. So so he spent like maybe 1 year or more with Yeshe Dorje. That in near where now is this Kalsan Gompa. If you go to Kham, there is Nyala Pema Nundul monastery called Kalsan Gompa. So this Kanse is a native place on Nyala Pema Nundul, also where Yeshe Dorje was staying. Then when he was 16 years old, he started for a pilgrimage that lasted maybe 2 or 3 years. First, he went to China, and he went to this Utaishan, where he had a vision of 5 forms of Manjushri. And that Utaishan is related to Manjushri, you know. So then also he received a terma of Manjushri, both peaceful and wrathful aspects. Then from there, going south of this Tibet part, then he slowly went like many places, like Pema Ke, Kompo, etc., until then he reached Lhasa. Also, then he met Shakya Shri at his place, this famous Siddha. Also, he received the teaching from him. So when he reached Lhasa, then they went to visit this Chokan, you know, in the Lhasa Chokan Cathedral. Then he was in front of this Chowo, Shakyamuni statue, most important image in the Chokan. Then when he went back, he saw kind of hole. He entered this dimension. Then he was in a dimension of Gana Chakra with kings on Zenkampos and all Dakinis and powers, etc. Also, he received some like Gana Chakra substances or food, whatever he took back. In the meantime, then his friends, because he was not alone in this pilgrimage, he was with some of his fellow practitioners, whatever. Then they said, hey, but where have you been? We have been in a line. You always disappear. Because maybe they were used to Changchub Dorje's different dimensions. So then he told the story. He gave also some substance, so they could not doubt that. Also, when he went to visit Trandruk temple, Trandruk is near Lhasa. Also, is a very ancient, founded by Sonzen Gampo. Then Trandruk temple, he was with also his friends. They found the door closed of temple, could not get in. One point, then he heard somebody walking from this temple. Then he knocked on the door. Then a female, like 16 years old, don't remember precisely, opened the door, said, yes, come in. Then he had a vision like a Jana Dakini, blue color with blue light, and opened 7 chakras. She opened like 7 mandalas, so he had that vision. That related to his termas for the future. Then also he went to like India and Nepal, etc. He did the practice, received the termas, etc. Then he went back to his teacher, Yeshe Dorje. Then Yeshe Dorje said, oh, where have you been? What have you done all of these years? Changchub Dorje then said, oh, I have been in all these important places. I had such amazing signs. Also, I received many important termas. So maybe, again, I want to do some other power places for making contact to improve that capacity. What do you think, teacher? Then Yeshe Dorje looked at him. He said, it is better instead of making holes in 100 shoes going for pilgrimage, it is better you do one hole on a sitting place. It is better 1 year of doing practice than 100 years going for pilgrimage, all the sacred places. You have just been wasting your time. So, Changchub Dorje then this way, Yeshe Dorje, he shattered all his pride, he thought, I am a good tertern, I'm a good practitioner. Then, at that moment, he understood, okay, now I will do according to my teacher. Then he went to retreat alone for 7 years. One place called this Bayatrakar. Then mostly he fed on like tulen, like herbs and minerals, and he did practice of termas he had received, etc. So that was maybe around when he was like 30 something. Then for other maybe 10 years still, he met other teachers, like for example, Sharsat Trashi Jalsen, this Bompo who achieved Jalu. Then when he was around 43, 44, he had indications. Then he went from Nyarong area, he went to Konjo area. Then he established this Kamdogar, as still exists now. Then he started to have many students and became famous both as a doctor and as a tertern and teacher. So many lamas would go to him to receive teaching, etc. So there's so many stories about his life. Later you will read in the biography. Okay, so this is the end of my talk. I hope it was useful to know about this incredible being. Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you. Finished.